Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Tablelands Regional Council Ordinary Meeting for April. Could I remind everyone to either put your devices onto silent or turn them off, please. Apologies, leave of absence. Do we have any? No? Could I ask everyone to be upstanding, please? I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this land that we meet on today and pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. While we're standing, we'll observe a minute's silence as a mark of respect for the members of our community who have recently passed. We wish their family and friends peace and comfort during this challenging time. Thank you.
Come on.
Item number 6. Do we have any declarations of material personal interests or conflicts of interest by councillors or senior officers? No? Thank you. We'll go to item 7, confirmation of the minutes. We'll first go to the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Thursday, 23 March. Can I have a mover that those minutes be accepted as a true and accurate record? Councillor Wiltz moving. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Hayden seconding. All those in favour? Carried. We might do matters arising while we've got it there. Councillor Bilney. Is that one?
Yes.
Being dealt with adequately there?
Yes, it has. Thank you, Mayor.
Do we have any more there, Jackie?
Yes, there's one more.
There's one more.
Councillor Cardew.
Councillor Cardew.
Yeah, thanks. That's been addressed today in the agenda.
Okay, very good. They were the only two? Any other matters arising from the floor? No, okay. We'll go to the minutes of the planning committee meeting on the 13th of April. Do I have a mover of those minutes? Councillor Hodge is moving. Councillor Clifton is seconding. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Do we have any matters arising from those minutes? No? We'll go to the minutes of the special meeting of the 18th of April. Do I have a mover of those minutes? Councillor Bilney's moving, Councillor Cardew seconding. Those in favour? Carried, thank you. Any matters arising? No, thank you. Okay, this morning we have two deputations regarding the Melinda Caravan Park. We've got Matt Lachlan and Greg English. We'll have Matt Lachlan, if Matt can come up first. I'll just remind everyone that this is a council meeting. It's not a public meeting. So the people that have the floor will be the people up here. You're welcome to take a seat there, Matt. Take a seat. The people that can talk will be the people that are up at the table. All right, Matt. You've got about 10 minutes, and it's over to you.
My name's Matt Lachlan. I'm speaking today in relation to the Melinda Falls Caravan Park. I'd like to thank the Mayor for allowing me to speak on this important issue. Thank you, councillors. 2.5 years ago, the community of Melinda found out with extremely short notice that TRC planned to vote on selling the Melinda Falls Caravan Park. To say that sparked outrage in the community would be an understatement. The park is extremely important to the community. It is the part of the tapestry that gives the town its charm, its identity. The unique nature of the park is the major draw card for tourists, some of whom fall in love with the town and become residents. That is the case with my family. The level of community anger in 2020 was such that an extraordinary meeting was held at the Pavilion solely to deal with this issue. The community meeting drew a large crowd with many people expressing their strong views that the sale of the park should not go ahead, that a management arrangement should continue. Nearly 2,400 people signed a petition against the sale of the park. They were informed TRC would look into leasing the park. 2.5 years later, we're back at square one. On Monday, the day before Anzac Day, we discovered the sale of the park is again on the agenda. What has actually happened over this period of time? Has TRC engaged proactively and openly, in good faith, in a timely manner, providing the necessary disclosure for parties to be able to submit a tender for the lease? Why has it taken so long with constant delays and inaction? I understand the grounds of the caravan park gifted to council to operate a community council-owned park. Many have expressed their concerns that the sale of the park could lead to it being redeveloped down the track as potentially any commercial development with simply a material change of use. A process the community would have little power to stop. The decisions that are made here today would have dire unforeseen consequences for the future. Many in the community have grave concerns that even if a commercial operator does buy the park in the short term, the character and uniqueness of the park and the wider town will be irreversibly diminished. The community feels like we're being kept in the dark, that there's no consultation. Similarly, what is happening with the Majestic Theatre, the Pavilion, historic buildings that are integral parts in preserving the identity and uniqueness of our town. The park should not be sold. If today council makes the decision to sell the park, despite community opposition, what mechanisms does council have to ensure that the uniqueness and character of the park is preserved and it does not simply become another concrete jungle like so many chain parks? That the park does not cease to exist by being unsold to a developer down the track as a result of the motion put in place here today. Melinda is a small town. Its character in part is defined by its caravan park, its theatre, its historic buildings and its murals. Without that identity, Melinda's appeal would be irreversibly diminished. We ask that the council rejects the motion to sell the park. We ask that TRC engages openly, honestly and proactively to inform the community what is happening, what has occurred over the last 2.5 years and why. Further, we ask that TRC addresses the community directly with regards to what other council-owned assets, in reality community assets, are at risk of being sold. Finally, on a related issue, we are all aware of the homelessness and rental crisis on the tablelands. Why is it that TRC has not opened part of Melinda Falls Caravan Park to those that do not have a roof over their heads? We have an obligation to help those in need, and it seems to me having this large asset and excluding the homeless is reprehensible. It is also a revenue stream being lost. I call on council to remedy this issue today. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, councillors, for listening.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you. Thank you. I'll now invite Greg English and Jeanette Suffield up to the table, please.
Greg's going to talk.
Okay, thank you. When you're ready, Greg.
Good morning, Mayor, councillors. thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Once again, I'm here to speak on behalf of the Malanda community and the Malanda Chamber of Commerce about the Malanda Falls Caravan Park, something that has been an issue for at least 2.5 years, but the message is still the same. Malanda wants to retain its caravan park as an integral community-owned asset. For such an issue to be drawn out for so long, it beggars belief that it suddenly becomes a late agenda item. Was this done solely for the purpose of catching up the community of Malanda by not allowing sufficient time for us to be organised? We feel this was a very underhanded move, which has further reduced the community's trust in council officers. As I have said before, throughout this whole process, the goalposts have been continually shifted. Originally, the catchphrase from TRC was, "We would be happy with a park that was revenue neutral," which changed to, "We would like to make some money from this," which has now become, "Let's sell the park." The final tenderer withdrew their submission out of sheer frustration from the inability to obtain accurate financial information. How can anybody complete a comprehensive tender now or in the future when the financial figures are incomplete and inadequate? Surely it should not be that difficult to provide accurate costings for one caravan park. If these figures had been provided, I am sure the tender process would have successfully continued. In September 2022, the council voted to allow nature-based tourism to apparently help host the large number of tourists that visit our region yearly. If we allow this park to be sold, there are no guarantees that it will remain a caravan park. We may not only lose our beloved park, but we may also be subjected to a heavily developed area, not what Malanda wants. We, as a community, elect you 7 people to govern on our behalf. But you, as councillors, can only work with what is put in front of you. We do not elect the council officers who continually present some weird and wonderful recommendations, such as selling the Malanda Falls Caravan Park, which has been a community asset of not just Malanda, but the whole region since 1959. Malanda Falls Caravan Park is an iconic destination known far and wide across Australia and internationally. Would TRC officers be able to provide us with the economic flow-on effects of people coming to stay at the park, bearing in mind Malanda now boasts a total of 11 eating places that rely on the tourist dollar. The affordable accommodation provided by the park is an incentive for people to extend their stay, use the park as their base, and spend more money across the entire region. Our question is to the council officer who has proposed the sale of this great asset. Number 1, what is your connection to the local community? Number 2, how long have you lived here? Number 3, how long do you intend working within TRC before moving on? We feel these are very important points when discussing the potential sale of such iconic, valuable assets. Many of the proposals seem to be put forward by staff who have little to no community connection, are here simply for the job, and leave the area after a very short time. The Malanda community has never been in favour of selling this wonderful part of our heritage. At a public meeting held in Malanda in December 2020 regarding the Malanda Falls Caravan Park, which immediately followed the General Council meeting, the Council said, "We have listened to the community of Malanda and we know that we must consult with the community." Well, now would be a very good time to remember that. We have listened to the community of Malanda and we know that we must consult with the community. So councillors, Now is the time to listen to your moral compass and ignore this ludicrous proposal. We understand that this agenda item is seeking expressions of interest for the sale of the park. But why waste time and no doubt money going down a track that will lead to a dead end? Because the community does not want this sale. What the Malanda community does want is this. Number one, Malanda wants to retain the Malanda Falls Caravan Park as a community-owned asset. Number two, Malanda wants Janine and Rob Riley to continue their wonderful custodianship of this unique asset. Number three, Malanda wants real community consultation. And number four, Malanda wants this completely avoidable mess of a process cleaned up once and for all. Once again, thank you for the opportunity to speak here today, and thank you for your time.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Jeanette. Thank you, Matt. I'd like to take the opportunity, councillors, to set aside the standing orders so that we can bring the Malanda Falls Caravan Park agenda item, bring it forward so that we can deal with it now rather than later on in the agenda. So I'd like to move a motion that we set aside the standing orders and bring item 12.2, Malanda Falls Caravan Park, expression of interest for freehold land, that we bring that item forward. Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Bilney is seconding. Those in favour of bringing it forward? Carried. Thank you. So we'll deal with that as the first item. But I've got some other matters here that I'll just, I'd also like to in terms of item 11.2, the Priors Creek Development Railway Lane proposed traffic changes. I'd also like to move a motion that that item be deferred to our planning meeting in a fortnight. The reason, sorry, the reason I'm suggesting that is that there's been a lot of questions and issues that seem to be raised in the last few days by councillors, which weren't raised at our workshop a little while back. So I think it's in council's interest that we perhaps workshop that one more time before the planning meeting, which is in a fortnight, so that when we come to that meeting, we're better informed about the issues that we've got. So I'd like to move that motion. Is there a seconder? Councillor Wilts is seconding. Those in favour?
Excuse me,
Yep.
it should be discussed, just now move something.
That's okay.
Second.
I'm happy for you to raise.
Well, here we go again. Here's another prime example of this landing on our steps here at this meeting today. And now, what doesn't suit people who someone may want to influence someone. So I guess against changing that. That's on the agenda. We should either approve it or not. That's my view.
I understand you here, Councillor Hodge. Would anyone else like to talk? Councillor Clifton.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Councillor Hodge's view. There have been a number of discussions, press reports, deputations to planning meetings that have raised a whole series of issues. There's an intensity of view out there that is not created by a council decision. I think that we have to, in the interests of our community, is to decide the matter once and for all.
Next, Councillor Clifton. Do we have any more views? Look, councillors, I understand the importance of making a decision. But this is a really important decision, and it's not one that's going to benefit from expediency. When we discussed this with our consultants some weeks ago in a workshop, and it was first raised in January at a workshop, we never had the issues or questions that we've got at the moment. So I think it's in council's interest that we're fully informed about what's proposed. We have that honest discussion, and then come back in a fortnight and make a decision. I don't think we've got anything to lose by pushing it back another 2 weeks. That's my view. Councillor Page?
Yeah, thanks, Ian. But I'm struggling to, I'm struggling with this to support the mayor. I'm struggling with this to support the mayor's motion, along the lines that we had a deputation 2 weeks ago at a planning meeting, and the deputy, Michael Massey, who owns the Barnbury Hotel, wanted a decision straight away, which I, as the acting mayor at the time, said it wasn't going to be possible, and that we would decide the matter in 2 weeks' time at the ACM, this ACM. So, now I give that commitment publicly, and I'm struggling with having to get back on that and have to wait another 2 weeks. So yeah, I just think a little bit more forward. I understand where the mayor's coming from, but
Can we have the honest discussion right here?
Yeah. Anyone else like to talk on this one before we go to the vote?
Each one needs to be dealt with separately. We need to deal with bringing forward the Needham caravan, remand the Falls caravan park matter, and then deal separately with the deferral matter.
Yeah, no, we did deal with the Melinda Falls.
Sorry, I apologise.
We voted on it.
I beg your pardon.
So that one carried. So this is the second one. Okay, those in favour of deferring it to our planning meeting in a fortnight? Okay, it's defeated. All right, so we will deal with that today on the agenda. One other one that we have to deal with. No, that's all.
We can deal with that later.
Okay, so we'll move on to item 12.2, which is the Melinda Falls Caravan Park expression of interest for freehold land. Can I have a mover to open the report for discussion? Councillor Billney and Councillor Hayden is seconding. Those in favour of opening the report for discussion? Carried. Over to you, Councillor Billney.
Through the chair. Just like to say thank you very much, Jeanette, Greg and Matt, for your deputations. Your comments are certainly compelling in my view. Over the past 48 hours, I have responded individually to over 230 emails, texts and phone calls. To me, this clearly shows the genuine angst within not only our community, but also outside our Tablelands region. I've also received a letter from me in English, which I will provide a request that it gets tabled on council records. I think the mayor has also received a copy of that. I just want to let the community know that it will be tabled. The original tender that went out for lease was a 10-year term, and the net was widely cast based upon this term. As a result, there was only one tenderer realised. After some discussions, it was agreed by council to amend the term to 30 years. This variation to the lease term was not tested further in the commercial world for its appetite other than the existing tenderer. Therefore, I would argue that the next appropriate path forward is to re-engage under the expression of interest process to retest commercial interests for a 30-year lease term. This in my opinion, would incentivise a potential operator to invest in the park over a term that could present an acceptable financial return to them. I ask council to consider whether there is an employee trusteeship, which has become a legacy position when the land was gifted by James English post-war. Its intent was the land was to be established as a functional caravan park for the community and to contribute economically to the benefit of the wider Tablelands area. The park was and continues to be a community asset, not for sale and to be kept in perpetuity by council as trustee. It should also be clearly understood that this is a freehold parcel of land which upon any sale provides the purchaser to do as they like with that property. The reality being is it may not necessarily continue as a park. Finally, I would also like to point out to my fellow council members is that the data presented in recent financial workshops reveal that council-owned parks have returned to a profitable position, and this recommendation should be carefully considered. I would like to offer up an alternative motion for council's consideration. I think that, Jackie, have you got the words?
Oh, sorry.
I can read it out.
Uh-uh.
Yeah, that's on the gallery.
Yeah, just a bit of a.
Okay, so I'll read it out. It's that council, one, resolve that in accordance with S 228/3/A of the Local Government Act 2009, it is in the public interest to invite expressions of interest for the lease of the business, land and building comprising of Malanda Falls Caravan Park for a period of up to 30 years prior to inviting written tenders. Number two is appoint an external agent who specialises in caravan parks to facilitate the expression of interest process, and three, delegate the power to the Chief Executive Officer to do all things and prepare all documents to facilitate the expression of interest process.
Thanks, Councillor Lilly. Councillor Hayden, did you have your hand up there before?
Yeah, I just would like to say something.
Yeah.
I have tried to answer the numerous emails and texts I received. But by 11:30 last night, I would probably run out of energy, and so I apologise to the people I haven't answered. But already, the Tablelands region has seen the sale of caravan parks, new owners choosing a different direction for their use. The 11% growth in the Tablelands region has left many people homeless, and by selling off the Malanda Falls Caravan Park will only put another nail in the coffin. Caravan parks accommodate locals, tourists and overnighters sufficient accommodation, which the area is lacking. The economic benefits to the local area and the wider community outweigh the sale of the Malanda Falls Caravan Park. If sold, this freehold parcel of land to an investor, potentially, there is no guarantee it will be retained as a caravan park. So I support that Bill Nick's motion.
Okay, so would you like to move your motion, Councillor Billings?
Yes.
So Councillor Billings moving the motion that we've got up on the board. Councillor Hayden is seconding the motion.
Just a point of order, I just want to let you know that I want to move a slight amendment to that resolution.
Okay. All right, so we've got a mover and a seconder of an alternative motion that's on the board. Would anyone else like to talk before I go to Councillor Hodge with an amendment? Councillor Carter.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. But I just want to, same as Councillor Hayden, I've received hundreds of emails and messages, which normally I try to respond to all the messages and emails that I get. But on this particular occasion, there's no way I can. So I just want to apologise to everyone if you think I've ignored you. I haven't. I've read most of them, but I just can't reply to everyone.
Thank you. Councillor.
That's just about exactly the same as Councillor Cardew. I've received a huge list all saying the same things, both from from within the community and from without the community, all saying exactly the same things. All perfectly valid, and I apologise that I can't respond to them. I'm very pleased that Councillor Billy has done that, because many of the people will be the same. I personally sympathise strongly with their views.
Anyone else before I go to Councillor Hodge's amendment? Councillor Hodge?
Thanks very much. Just to echo everyone's statements done. At the end of the day, I'm elected to look after the people in my division and all the other people in TRC, which includes all the people of Malanda and all across. So there is no way in the world that I'll, as I said last week, I will not let the businesses down, even in my town or your town. And I will never do anything to jeopardise that position. So notwithstanding those comments, just at point 2 where it says and, I would just like to add on that the external agent report back to council with their recommendations by the ACM in July, 27th of July 23. The reason for that is, if we don't put a date on there,
Sorry, what was it, July?
July ACM.
Okay.
And the reasoning B is that if we don't put a date where it comes back to council, we'll be here this time next year. So it's got to be, in my view, it's got to be done and come back as soon as possible. So that's
the amendment, yeah. Councillor Wilmy and Councillor Hayden.
Yep.
As the movers of the motion.
Yes.
Yeah, so you're happy with the amendment? Councillors? Did you want to say anything? No?
If I may, to the council, I just want to clarify to the public and to the councillors that although Shane is our manager of strategic assets and his name is on the report, it's not necessarily his recommendation that is before you.
Thanks, Mark. It's absolutely.
Just wanted to clarify that.
It is my recommendation, authored by Shane.
Okay, councillors, any more commentary on this one? Questions? Okay, we've got a recommendation up on the board, moved by Councillor Bilney, seconded by Councillor Hayden. Those in favour? Carried, thank you.
Follows from that, Mr. Mayor, that it follows from that, Mr. Mayor, we should provide some form of subsequent report such that officers are not left in a situation without being asked to provide advice about the path forward, and the best path forward, if the best path forward for council is not under consideration. So we need to canvass the options. How do we put this, the sale of Malanda Caravan Park, to bed once and for all?
May I just make a comment? I, as a councillor, hold no grievance or discontent with the reports council officers make to us. They are meant to be frank and fearless. Absolutely. We don't have to like them. We don't have to vote for them. We can amend them. I don't think it's appropriate. Bearing in mind, we expect them to be frank and fearless. I don't think it's right to target them, as Mr. English did, and I hold Mr. English in the utmost of respect. I don't think that's fair to do that. You can target us, but you should not be targeting council officers, because we expect them to give frank and fearless advice. You're meant to pursue us, not council officers. I make that very strongly and in defence of our council officers. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Right, councillors?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, do you want the resolution to now to come forward from this council that the Malanda the landfills caravan park will not be sold. I think that was the CEO's point there.
I think we could just, if you could ask us to bring forward a report in relation to ensuring that the Melinda Falls Caravan Park is not available for sale, rather than just carrying that. That motion can be rescinded by a new council. We're back in the same situation. Investigate options to ensure that the Melinda Falls Caravan Park, investigate options to ensure that Melinda Falls Caravan Park is not sold. Or the land, perhaps is not sold, but perhaps remains in council's ownership, maybe better.
Just like we were trying to get the resolution right.
So we don't need to do anything on that now?
Oh,
We do.
I'm going to move.
You're going to move motion? Okay.
do you want to tweak it a bit, Peter?
Council will investigate options. The land on which the Melinda Falls Caravan Park and council
Sure.
remains in council's ownership.
Very good. Is everyone happy?
Right, oh, sorry, Mr Mayor, I know I'm not supposed to speak, but can I ask one question? Can you say in there, as a caravan park?
That's what it says.
No.
It's caravan park.
It remains in council ownership as a caravan park.
I can put that.
Which one of the councillors could suggest that?
Gary?
The report can canvass whether that can be practically and should be practically achieved, Mr Mayor.
Okay.
Adding it?
Yes.
Okay. So Councillor Hodge is moving that motion up on the screen. Councillor Wilts is seconding. Any further comments on that one, councillors? Councillor Larger?
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm just wondering whether this is a bit premature. We just decided to put a special interest for the lease. I think that needs to play out, you know, and to look at all the options that are available to council, if that doesn't eventuate. Like, what's going through my mind at the moment, we've got a strong community representation here. What would stop the community from forming some sort of a co-op or the like, and then taking on the Melinda Caravan Park, you know, and we offload it to the community, you know? So those is just one of the options that may be available to us in the future. I don't know whether putting this up now is a little bit premature.
Councillors?
Just in response to the Deputy Mayor's comments, to report to canvass options for that to occur.
Yeah.
Pros and cons.
All right, councillors, we've got a motion up on the screen. We've got a mover and a seconder. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Very good. We'll move on to 11.1. FNQ Spec Home Proprietary Limited, reconfiguring a lot, 1 into 37 lots. Variation request, lot 3, 188 Rockley Road, Atherton. Wait a half a minute. Let that settle down. Robert?
Just in front.
Speak. Take a seat. Yeah. Yep. Right next to him. You can.
Thank you. I know we're not meant to speak, but thank you very much.
All right, we'll just get back started again, councillors. 11.1, F&Q Spec Homes Proprietary Limited, reconfiguring the lot, 1 into 37 lots, variation request, lot 3, 188 Rockley Road, Atherton. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Cardew is moving the officer's recommendation. Do we have a seconder?
Second, because will have to be an amendment.
Councillor Wills is seconding. Councillor Cardew.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Look, I want to put up an alternative motion to this.
An amendment.
Or amended motion.
An amended motion.
Whatever it is.
Just a point of view, you just can't, you move the officer's recommendation, so I think you should withdraw it. And I'll move it for you, so you can amend the motion.
But that's the right.
Thank you, councillor. That is correct.
I'm happy to do that, thank you.
So Councillor Cardew is withdrawing his moving of the motion. So Councillor Hodge is moving. And Councillor Cardew is seconding. Is that correct?
No.
No?
No.
Councillor Wills? Yeah. Councillor Wills. Right, got it. Okay, Councillor Hodge.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. Now, thank the officers for the report. The majority of the councillors had a site meeting yesterday with our officers, which went really well. It was great that we did do it, and to be able to explain exactly what's going on, to see it instead of a desktop if you want to be on the ground. So from that meeting, there has been some recommendations for some changes or some add-ins to the conditions. So I'm happy now to get Councillor Cody now wishes to make an amendment to that.
Councillor Cardew.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'd like to make an alternate motion, just to vary some of the conditions in the officer's recommendation. If we can, as you can see there, the red text is sections to be deleted, and the blue text is conditions to be included. If we can just scroll down to those coloured texts, there's nothing else changes other than those things. Now the first one there is to include in the condition, prior to the endorsement of the first plan of survey, the developer must re-profile the existing table drain located on the western side of Rockley Road from the new intersection into the subdivision to the existing culvert located at the corner approximately 100 metres to the south of the site, and must facilitate free drainage. The stormwater pipe must have a diameter equal to or greater than that of the stormwater detention basin outlet. So that's just to ensure that stormwater can be taken from the subdivision through the detention basin into a drain and under the road at the corner without impacting Rockley Road. Because at the moment, there's a lot of water comes out of there, and as we've seen in the submitters' submissions, there's photographs in there showing where. So this is not a huge cost to the developer. It will be part of his roadworks and earthworks, and it will alleviate any stormwater shedding across Rockley Road. That's the first one. We can continue to scroll there, please, Jackie. The next one is, prior to the endorsement of the first plan of survey, the right-hand turn movement into Rockley Road must be closed to prevent northbound vehicles from accessing Rockley Road via the Kenny Highway intersection, to the satisfaction of the council's delegated officer and Department of Transport and Main Roads. This has been raised on a number of occasions. I have personally experienced a near miss, travelling that direction, entering into Rockley Road myself. It's been raised, the officers have given this consideration as well. So I'd like to see this recommendation endorsed. It's not a huge cost. I'm envisioning, after talking to our development engineer, that it'll be a very low cost to the developer. It's more likely just include a couple of signs and a bit of line marking. The next one is prior to endorsement of the first survey plan, Rockley Road. A delegation of the new intersection must be widened as appropriate to facilitate turning movements of general access vehicles, e.g. semi-trailers, truck and dog, such that the vehicle movement would be contained to the respective traffic lane. What that refers to is that where the entrance to the subdivision is located, it's right on the right angle bend corner. It's got double lines there at the moment, and general access vehicles cannot stay within their lane without crossing over the double lines. So all that, they've got to do roadworks there anyway for the entrance into the subdivision. So what that condition will ask is to widen that section of road just there so that the vehicles can stay in their respective lanes. Keep going down, please, Jackie. This one here is to remove this condition altogether. Planting trees on streets is, in my mind, horrendous. I don't know why we haven't learned our lesson over the years. All you got to do is look at the old part of the town of Atherton, for example, where trees were planted on footpaths and subdivisions, and now the damage to our infrastructure in some locations is horrendous, and it's going to cost us a lot of money. So I don't see the need to have to make the developer plant trees on the footpath that in later life is going to cause issues to council. So I'd like to see that one removed. And I'm not sure if I think that was all. Oh, no, one more. There's in the submissions from Ergon Energy, requested that an easement, a 10-metre wide easement, be put down the full length of the eastern boundary to facilitate expansion of their network. At the moment, the developer has put on the plans building envelopes, which would prevent buildings being built within that 10-metre wide section. However, if Ergon want to put or upgrade their network, they would have to deal with each individual property owner to get an easement through their property. So it makes sense at design and approval stage to have that easement in place. It's just a line on the paper so that it can facilitate any future work that they're going to need to do. And I think that is the last one. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillors, Councillor through the chair. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend the on-site meeting yesterday, so I'm not sure what was discussed and to visualise the drainage issues. I've got a couple of questions. The first one, development engineer, have they assessed these proposed amendments and are they considered to be realistically and achievable? It's not onerous on the developer?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct, Councillor Billamy. These conditions were drafted by myself and the development engineer in consultation with Councillor Harvey.
And are they consistent with what we would be applying to any other person in the same position?
Probably not, but each development has to be assessed on its merits and conditioned on its merits, you know, in accordance with the facts and circumstances of that particular proposal.
The last one I've got is about the planting of trees on streets. I would consider that there's appropriate species available to do it. That won't incur onto our council's infrastructure, so I think we should be keeping that in. Council, as I understand, also developing an urban tree policy, which is still in formation. That will help guide where trees will be planted on council road reserves and et cetera. So I would suggest that we keep the tree in there. I mean, there is a big push for cooling our environment, etc. for climate related issues, so I would suggest that that's retained.
Councillor Country.
Just in reply to Councillor Miller's comments about the trees, there's nothing stopping, we have policies in place now, I believe, that allows residents to plant trees on the footpath. And if you just look at the company there, one of the most recent subdivisions and developments in the Output Township, you just drive down there were already branches overhanging the road. That if you was in a large bore drive or a small truck or something, they'd take your side mirrors off. It's an issue. I don't think we need to make it worse by insisting that developers plant trees on footpaths. I think if people want to plant trees on footpaths, there's a mechanism in place to allow them to do that if they want to.
Councillor Chair, that's my argument. There is no mechanism at the moment. That's what we're developing. So that's why, therefore, I think that should be retained. So that you go through a process if that's what they want to do.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I don't want to withdraw that. I'll just put it to the vote.
Yeah, okay, councillors, anyone else like to comment on this one or make suggestions? Councillor Wills?
Yeah, I think we've got to look at how it looks to people coming into the area as well. Look, if we have an adequate policy about the tree planting, I see it not only as beautification, but Councillor Milner and myself attended some time ago now a workshop down in Cairns, and they are desperately trying to seek authority through their planning decisions that it be mandatory that developers provide trees. So I really think we've got to look not just at today, but at our future environment. Trees take a long time to grow, and I really think that it should form part of any new subdivision that we allow.
Very good. Councillor Hodge?
Yes, as we said before, every development has its own conditions, and whether in this case here, I think the trees should go because it's just fall into the southeasterly winds, and those trees probably like this. So I'd rather see it taken out, and when all the houses are developed and that, then people want to then plant the appropriate species, well, then they can. But everything's going to so.
Very good. Thanks, Councillor Hodge. Councillor Clifton?
Just as an example, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I live in Lakeside, and at the time of each of Shire Council, it was, I imagine that they didn't have it didn't allow tree planting on the road verges. So there are none. Yet it's a very attractive, forested area. Everybody's risen to the occasion, as it were, and respected the environment. On the other hand, if you go across into the Rankin development, just across the road and drive along Wednesday Avenue, it's been there for about 4 years, and some of the trees are getting huge, and as Councillor Cody has pointed out, encroaching on the traffic and reducing vision and making the place, apart from the environmental effect, making it feel closed in. It was obviously a requirement of that development that it be done. I don't think it's the end of the world if the trees are left out. And I think then that gives the individual landholder the ability to do what they want to do, when they want to do it.
Very good. Thank you. Any more comments, councillors? Councillor Cargew's got a motion up there that's been moved and seconded. We'll put that to the test. Those in favour of Councillor Cargew's motion, keeping in mind that I think Councillor Bilney and Councillor Wilts would make an amendment to that regarding the trees. If Councillor Cargew's motion fails. Those in favour of Councillor Cargew's motion. Carried. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to item 11.2. Priors Creek Development, Railway Lane, proposed traffic changes. I'll move that to get the discussion going. Can we have a seconder? Councillor Wilts. Councillors, I'll reserve my right to speak last on this one. In lieu of speaking for the motion now, I'll ask Paul Stubbs, the Priors Creek Development Project Manager, Craig Kaplick, our Traffic Engineer, and Angelo Pinocaro to run us through the basis for the report's recommendation. Thanks, gentlemen, and we've got Blake here as well.
Are you just opening for discussion?
The report for discussion.
Oh, okay, so I've moved the recommendation.
Oh, you moved the recommendation, sorry.
Yes.
I seconded it.
Yeah, I did. Got learning.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just a sec.
So the key question our project team was asked to answer was, how do we improve the traffic flow situation in that area of the Atherton CBD as we develop Priors Creek? So the project team was specifically asked to look at traffic flow situation for Atherton, which we all know is pretty diabolical right now. So I'll hand over to Paul and the team to walk us through that.
Thanks, Matt. We were just going to bring up the 3D fly through just to put it all in a bit of context. So if you have a look at the screen here, and I'll just talk through. So we've been on a journey since the end of last year, commencing the design phase of Priors Creek in accordance with the Council endorsed master plan. You see there Vernon Street, and at the end of Vernon Street, the Plaza, Urban Plaza, and then you turn into the new Link Road, which is a proposed one-way road heading northbound. Destination playground, you see the proposed future developments in those council freehold lots that we're about to commence the process for. And then towards the northern end, which is the men's shed space, continuation of the rail trail. So this is the southern end, they'll be developed, mountain bike facilities, the rail trail, pump track for the kids. And a new outdoor amphitheatre which sits at the end of Vernon Street, with strong sight lines back up to Main Street, which will hold about 1,000 people, and then turn around at the end of Vernon Street and then heading down to the new Link Road, one-way road, because Vernon Street's the main entrance into proposed development. So yeah, we've started the design, and now we're at this point. We've had council workshops earlier this year, steering committees monthly, and stakeholder consultation that Blake and Angelo has undertaken over the last few months. And at the start of the project, and early in the design brief, traffic particularly on Main Street, was a key consideration. We were clearly made aware of the sensitivities around Main Street, and development will attract cars and vehicles, and to be successful, we need to do that. But we also have to be very mindful of putting the pressure on Main Street, the traffic where it's already at a saturation point. So our traffic engineers, we did traffic modelling, we've done traffic counts at key intersections, we've gone away and modelled that, and to help to address that key issue about how do we manage additional pressure on Main Street or take pressure off Main Street during those key peak periods, the AM and PM peaks when the traffic is at its worst. The proposal was put forward to reverse the railway lane, which now will help to introduce a southbound one way, because the new link road will be north. So we've got the two options up there. Which one's that one, Jackie?
That's the first one.
Okay, that's option A. So that's the recommended option. So in that arrangement, it's proposed to reverse the traffic flow on railway lane, which will allow a southbound movement. So if you're coming in from the north side to the key attractors, which is the IG during this peak period. So when we're talking about taking pressure off Main Street, we're talking about the peak periods, the AM, PM peak. So the key attractors with IGA and people getting to work and kids to schools during that peak period, this introduction of a southbound lane allows vehicles to travel down railway lane from the northern roundabout all the way to Silo, and then circle back along the proposed new link road. Where in option B, if it kept the status quo, as you can see there, all three arrows point north, where the new link road south to north, because that's the main entrance into the development. Railway lane stays as it is, south to north, and Main Street with the left-hand restrictions on Main Street, and it sends vehicles on. So it didn't allow for that circulation and that movement to head southbound. So to address that key issue that was asked of us at the start, how do we help to reduce pressure on Main Street? Option A was put forward as the recommended approach, and has and we have a development application in with Department of Transport Main Roads as a referral agency, and they support and prefer this arrangement also, given the pressure on Main Street currently, to help alleviate traffic and those southbound movements to those key attractors being IGA, and the car park that sits in behind Main Street with people coming to work in the morning and parking there. They can now obviously get to that car park without having to go along Main Street and turn right down Burn Street. So TMR's preference is this approach, and they've alluded to if we do keep the status quo and don't allow for this movement, well then there will be additional pressure on Main Street, which will introduce further conflicts of queuing in the street, which could then trigger a range of upgrades to Main Street, which we haven't gone down that path yet because that's not the subject of the current DO that's in them, but that could result in loss of car parks, signalised intersections on Main Street, having a wider impact. So recommended is A at this stage. So that's the opening, Mr. Mayor. Yeah.
Thanks very much. Questions, councillors? Councillor Cardew?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Look, unfortunately, I don't support the consultant's views on this. I strongly oppose changing the direction of railway lane, and if I'm permitted, Mr. Mayor, I'll get up and I'll show you why. If we bring traffic this way, oh no, let's just go back to where it was originally. At the moment, as it stands, traffic comes down Main Street, down Vernon Street, and if you want to get into this area of the town or the businesses down there, you go this way. And you do not travel on the main street between Vernon and Jack. So there's all the traffic now, if you want to get into this area here or down to the new precinct, would come down here, down there and out, and exit out through the other lane. No traffic goes from Vernon to Jack at all. The lanes were set up for service delivery vehicles on both railway lane and up on Reading Lane above the main street as well. It was all purposely built for servicing the rear of the shops, for delivery trucks and the like. If you reverse it, you're bringing traffic back up here, and then the only way to get out is to take traffic back through our communal area we're trying to develop, and if you just looked at that previous slide, putting more local traffic down that road in that environment, I can't see the sense of that. So that people coming back this way have two options: either go down through the communal area of the precinct, or you got to go down Main Street between Vernon and Jack. So we're putting more traffic on Main Street in that area where we have pedestrian crossings. The congestion of traffic is horrendous at times. Just try imagine getting into that traffic lane if you're coming out this way. The other thing is that was mentioned. Okay, if you reverse it and you got southbound traffic coming from the north, going into IGA and exiting, why would we want to put local traffic through a shopping centre car park? You'd have to ask yourself that question. It's okay if you want to just go to IGA, but if you want to do a shortcut to go south, why do we want direct traffic into a shopping centre car park? So those are my strong views. I think that at the moment, the way it is, everything's flowing south-north, and to get back into the south lane is still, no matter what you do, you've got to get down to here and go, turn around and come back. Unless in the future we can do something with these two intersections at Jack and Vernon on Main Street to allow traffic to get back into the south lane, all we're doing by reversing this here is putting more traffic between there and here, where we're trying to develop a community area. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Billings?
Through the chair. Look, I actually echo Councillor Cardew's comments there. Whatever happens, we're still going to have a problem with the traffic levels that traverse Main Street. I've previously raised my concerns about pedestrian crossing that is adjacent to the BV Hotel on the Main Street and the backlog of cars that it causes when someone crosses. Just only has to be one, you can have 30 or 40 cars backed up. This, in my opinion, has not been adequately assessed or addressed in this project. What previously was serviceable in the past does not now meet the increased level of both foot and vehicular traffic that traverses the area. Yeah, that's.
Thanks, Councillor Billings. Councillors, we'll go Councillor Wood and then Councillor Cliff.
Okay, thanks very much. I echo Councillor Cardew's and Billings' thoughts on the traffic flows. I believe that our traffic engineers will have to come back to option A and work it out. Now, the other thing is, now I'm all for the precinct, okay? I've been for the precinct all the way. But I tell you what, I'm here to represent, and I've said it before, to the business people and the people who they employ in this region. And I will not, if you want to change that direction, it'll affect the Barron Valley Hotel, who employ at least 50 people, and put that business at jeopardy. What I'll do, if you want to continue that way, I will withdraw my support for the project. I support the project, but I'm not going to will not vote to change that railway lane around. Now, I lived here most of my life, and I know all the traffic. I've seen all the changes. But my role is to represent the people who elected me. And I said last fortnight ago, I will not let the business people down in this town. They're the ones who pay all our fees and the salary wages of this organisation. So my view is go back to option A and let's continue with the project.
Option B.
Option B, sorry. That's it. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to echo what the other councillors have said, but I'd like to add a bit about consultation, and this should not be taken as a criticism of our officers. I would have thought, and I don't know that, I know that most people have been, in Main Street, have been consulted individually. I would have thought that a commercial stakeholder conference of all of those people, so they can collectively put their views together, might have been useful. I'm not sure that we've had that at this stage. And I'm also mindful of the fact that the time in which we have to consider these things has been shortened by a deputation that in my view anyway, a deputation that Mr. Nasser brought to us at our planning meeting. I'm a great supporter of the precinct as well. I think it's got tremendous opportunities. And I think though that the community have to be brought along as well. It's, if you like, an act of faith at the moment for the community to get in behind the precinct. They know that it's going to cost $20 million. They know, that's as much as they know. They don't know that we've made submissions to the Queensland Government. We haven't got a result for the expression of interest for the property. It's a great act of faith for them to get in behind us when they think they're going to pay for the lot at this stage until we tell them otherwise. Now, so I think that as well as the comments made by other councillors, we need to bring the community along with us. And at this stage, I'm not convinced about that the community's had sufficient input to making the change. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks. Councillors, any more comments at the moment? Councillor Wills?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm fully supportive of the project as well, and it'd be wonderful to see a precinct like this. I do have some reservations about the traffic flood that is proposed. As Councillor Cardew indicated, anything coming up Railway Lane in option B to get back to travel north has to come out onto Main Street, and that creates a bit of an issue as far as vehicles used for bulk delivery, semi-trailers and the like, to come up Vernon Street to turn left back into Main Street, and we desperately need to get heavy vehicles out of Main Street. So fine coming into the area, but I wouldn't like to see those semi-trailers being forced into a situation where they're having to go through the IGA car park to be able to travel anywhere else. And then if they still have to head north, they've still got to come back down Main Street. So there is that issue. I think that if we're not going to accept option A, it's got to be for the right reasons. And as much as I fully support the businesses that have been very successful in town here, we have to look at what we're doing with community and the community as a whole. And we have no idea whether it will adversely impact on the businesses that have been associated with some of the criticism. And we won't know that for some time in the future. Yeah, so I also agree with Councillor Clifton that I think there needs more work done, which Mr Mayor is why I seconded your motion at the start of the meeting, that it should be workshopped further, because there are issues that have to be addressed and some of them have been raised here today.
Thanks very much. Councillor Hayden?
I'm fine, I've heard everybody. I'll just start repeating myself.
Yeah.
Repeating what everyone else says.
Yeah, okay.
It'd be appropriate just to allow our consultants to comment in relation to the matters Councillor Cardew's raised about traffic flow.
Yeah, thank you.
Can do that. So yeah, the service vehicles is a key consideration to Railway Lane. We understand that. So when we talk about taking pressure off Main Street, it's during those peak hours, so the AM, PM peak, which is when obviously a lot of the people are moving around to those key attractors. The service vehicles, I think it's about 1,500 vehicles per hour during the peak period in the traffic studies that have been done. We did set up video cameras on the poles and we've recorded all the traffic movements, north, south, left, right, And that's gone into the model. And of those traffic movement, the heavy vehicle through Main Street accounts for a couple %. So of that 1,500, a couple % is heavy vehicles. In railway lane, it'll just be a fraction of that. So service vehicles generally spread themselves out, throughout the day. So the peak period that we were trying to alleviate putting onto Main Street is the people moving around, getting to IGA, getting to car parks, getting to work, getting to school. So that was the why TMR supported of that case, because it's around addressing congestion on Main Street during those peak periods, which are going to those key attractors on that western side of Main Street. Craig, anything else you'd like to?
Yeah, I guess what we're ignoring as well, we're talking about the service vehicles that are currently using railway lane, but we're not talking about the 200 vehicles an hour that are going to be generated by the development. So when each of the lots are fully formed with the residential commercial precincts. So that's what we're trying to keep off Main Street. So Main Street's at capacity at the moment. We're trying to keep as much traffic circulating through that area as possible. If we're sending everything north, anyone who wants to go south has to use Main Street in option B. So service vehicles, yes, but also the 200 vehicles an hour in peak hours from the rest of the development. So,
very good, thanks. Councillors, any more on this one?
I'll just move the procedural motion that the vote be put, seeing everyone's had their say.
I reserve my right. I haven't had my say yet.
Oh.
I reserve my right to speak last. Okay. So yeah, is everyone said enough? Yeah. All right. Look, councillors, we've been provided with our own expert advice, and this advice has been corroborated by DTMR engineers. The best solution for traffic flow in the Atherton CBD is to reverse that section of railway lane. That's agreed to by both DTMR and our own consultant here. This is something that's desperately needed, basically for every person that drives a car. So it's not just the people with the businesses in the Main Street or on Railway Lane. It's for everyone who drives a car through Atherton. And just go back to Councillor Hodges' point, I understand the businesses employ people in that, but all ratepayers pay for the council organisation. Every ratepayer pays for us and pays for the council staff. It's not just business people. I mean, as we move towards transforming Atherton CBD with the Priors Creek development, this is one of many critical decisions we'll make along the way. I fully understand the concerns raised by the owner of the Barron Valley Hotel, and if I was the owner, I'd raise an objection too, because it means changes are afoot, and there will be impacts on the Barron Valley Hotel. I fully accept that. However, I propose that there will be enormous opportunities for two businesses in particular with the development of Priors Creek. As iconic Atherton hospitality businesses, the Carrington and the BV have street access not only to Main Street, but also to Railway Lane. Dual street access for pedestrians is gold from a hospitality business perspective. The Priors Creek development will become an attraction in itself. It will draw people into town. It's like the Cairns Esplanade draws people into town, where they ultimately spend money in the adjacent cafes, restaurants and bars. It will positively impact the turnover of these hospitality businesses. Finally, we're about to go to market to seek the very best investors for our freehold parcels. It's critical that we send the right message to investors, especially with regards to our traffic flow architecture. At the very least, we need to make sure that we're doing what we can, as the proponent of the Priors Creek development, to maximise the practical amenity like traffic flows, ease of access, and potential business returns. Councillors, I strongly urge council to take the expert advice of our team and the DTMR, who are recommending, if we want to improve traffic flows in Atherton, it's not a silver bullet, but it's an important tool that we've got in the kit. So councillors, I'll ask that those in favour of the officer's recommendation to raise their hand. Okay, it's defeated.
Mr. Mayor, given that conclusion, is it possible to bring forward that part of my notice of motion 14.1, which deals with the railway lane?
14.1.
Sorry, Matthew.
I'll take your advice on that, Gary. Bring that one forward now.
You can amend the standing orders to bring any matter forward, Mr. Mayor, provided that a majority agrees that that should occur.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, should I move suspension of standing orders to bring it forward?
Yeah, if you move that motion and seek a seconder, then we'll vote on that.
I'll second the motion.
Suspend standing orders to consider 14.1.
Yeah, so Councillor Clifton's moved the motion, Councillor Hodges seconded. Those in favour of that movement? Carried?
Was it unanimous?
No, it was 6-1. Councillor Clifton.
Thanks, Mayor. I did advise that part 2 of that motion, I've removed that from the table. So that so that part 2 does not, So the motion is resolved that the one-way traffic flow for Railway Lane remain in the current direction of south to north between Vernon and Jack Street, and delegate to the power of the CEO to do all things necessary and prepare all steps to facilitate this decision. I have nothing more to say, Mr. Mayor.
I'll second the motion.
So Councillor Clifton's moving the motion on the board, and Councillor Hodges seconding.
Do we need the last bit in there, Mr. CEO, because nothing changed?
It's not particularly required.
I'll have to take it out.
Sorry, could I just make a point? If we're proposing to make changes to motions on the screen, that we actually read out what we're proposing to change, because the people watching this don't get to see the screen. So just for clarity, especially when we're making changes like that.
We're removing the requirement for any power to be delegated to the Chief Executive Officer in relation to railway lane.
Okay, we've got a motion that's moved and seconded. Is that it, Jackie?
Yep. Well, there's only, it doesn't need one, so I've just taken out the one and made it flow on.
Yeah. Those in favour? Carried.
Just a short adjournment so I can speak to our consultants before the meeting.
Yeah, okay. We might keep, we've got one more related to the Vernon vacant space on that one. But we might take a short adjournment anyway. Can we just take a 10-minute break? And we'll be back at 25:30. We'll reconvene the meeting. We are up to item 11.3. Priors Creek Development, Ergon offer for relocation services. Have a mover of the officer's recommendation. I'll move. Councillor Tardy seconding. Okay, so, motion's been moved and seconded. Councillors? I might get some advice from our consultants about what's happened here with Ergon and what's in front of us, Paul, if that's
Yeah,
okay.
that's fine. Yep, so down in the corridor, there sits their HV lines that run through the site and LV lines that sit in front of the high voltage and low voltage lines that sit along the corridor. So for the infrastructure to proceed, that's proposed in the development, the playground, the destination
Can I just
play.
interrupt for a moment?
Yeah.
Can we put the diagram back up and have a look and you can talk to the diagram?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yep. Probably not the best diagram, but
Can you suggest another one?
do you want me to point to it? Can I go?
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
good, Paul, yeah, thanks.
So, as you may know, along this corridor here sits some HV high voltage power lines, Ergon power lines. That is over the top of all the proposed, the destination playground, the amphitheatre space. So Ergon have a requirement, you can't build within a certain corridor of their HV lines, so none of that infrastructure could go ahead with that power lines remaining in place. So the offer that they've given us, and likely, and also all those power lines that sit in front of the proposed development, they're the low voltage lines. So in order for the development to proceed, we need to remove that HV between that corridor there, put that underground. It still needs to be there because it's feeding town, it's part of their overall network. So that's going to be augmented where it'll be put underground and it'll run across underground in the development just to facilitate what's being proposed in the master plan. So that's their offer to do all those works. And
Well, what about the low voltage run up against the pre-LV?
Yeah, these ones here.
Have they been under?
That's part of that offer. Yeah, that's been underground too. Yeah.
Thanks, Paul. Councillors? Councillor Cargy?
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Look, given the environment that we're in today, with escalating costs and things, I'm not led to believe the offer from Ergon is very, very cost effective and very reasonable. If we don't go ahead with this, it will just, like we see on many, many occasions in our tendering process, by the time we get to do the work, the tender has doubled. So I fully support going ahead with this, regardless of what happens in the future with this development, whether it goes ahead in its current form or it's scaled back. Regardless of any of that, if we want to do anything in that Bryce Creek precinct area, we need to deal with those power lines. So let's just get it done while the costs are reasonably low.
Councillor Billney?
Through the chair, just a couple of questions. The offer from Ergon, how long is the time frame for that, for example?
Yeah, we've extended that offer to, I think, is it next week? 4th of May. 4th of May. 4th of May is the period that council have to get back to them. Yep.
Okay, and secondly, we're being asked to bring forward capital expenditure from a 23-24 potential budget that we haven't endorsed yet. So I mean, what's the mechanics behind it?
It becomes part of this year's budget, the 23-24 budget. We reduce the budget next year. It's just phasing.
And so we are assuming that we are going to endorse that 23-24 budget item, though, aren't we, if we're bringing it forward?
Well, if you don't endorse that, or you're not going to proceed with the precinct, pretty good time to put that on the table.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting not proceeding with the precinct. All I was asking was about bringing forward those costs.
Basically just approving that as an amendment to this year's budget. And to support the comments made by the Deputy Mayor, this is a very, very competitive offer from Ergon to begin to tidy up that area. It also demonstrates that to prospective expressors of interest in developing the lots that works are going ahead. We are proceeding.
Councillor Hodge?
previous to the other motions, it was my own intention to withhold this until we have the expressions of interest come through for the 4 lots. It's like putting the cart before the horse. You know, we want to make, we got to go and spend $520,000 to do the power, and then all of a sudden we don't get expressions of interest. That means we've gone and done all that work, and then if we don't get expressions of interest that are favourable, then we have to look at what we're doing. But putting everything into context, I have decided that I will support the ergon, because it doesn't matter, even if we scale back the precinct, you know, from 20 million to 8 million or whatever, only do stage 1, stage 2, that work's got to be done. So with that, putting that into context, I will be supporting the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Clifton.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and thanks, CEO, for reminding me about it's sort of like whether in or out. You know, if I was inclined towards Mr. Hodges, Councillor Hodges' view that we should hold back until the expressions of interest have come through. But the point is, because I want to see private money in this development, I don't want to see, I wouldn't support the project if there was not private funds. And the expressions of interest is a way of testing that. But, as the CEO rightfully points out, you've got to throw your hat in the ring. If you want other people to throw your hat in the ring, you've got to throw your own hat in the ring. So I will support the electrical works. That's our hat in the ring. Thanks for your good old Australian inspiration there, Mr. CEO.
Councillors, any more comment or question on this one? Councillor Wills?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, just to endorse what Councillor Hodges said. Like, no matter what happens down there, the high voltage lines have got to be shifted, got to be put underground. We can't even develop parkland with those high voltage lines there. If we're going to do any development work at all, we have to accept the challenge now and support this.
Thanks, Councillor Wills. Councillor Hodge.
Just one more thing, on a sort of a lighter note. The precinct has started. The 5G tower is up. It's up. It's humongous. So,
you're right. It's not going to affect our hair, Gareth.
We're wearing hats.
Any chance that it reaches Montgomery Close, General Manager, to understand all those radio wave things?
29 metres, I think.
All right, councillors.
I moved from a rural block into town and my internet speeds of, a quarter of what they were. If I was logic, but there you go.
All right, we've got a mover and a seconder on this one. Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried. Thank you. Thanks very much, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
We'll go to 11.4, Local Government Remuneration Commission, Council Category Review. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Wills and Councillor Hodge. Councillor Wills?
No, to me the report speaks for itself, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Not sure what the engagement process looks like. It hasn't been made clear, just we asked the main councillor aware. So we've done that.
Yeah,
it's in the public meeting process. As we should.
Very good. Councillor Billman.
Just a really quick question. The category review, is that looking at the category of the council, as in we're currently category 3 and then?
Yes, and now those categories are arrived at.
Yeah,
Councillor
okay,
Gilney.
thank you.
To the question, how the categories are established and what categories council is in.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried. 12.1, traffic control. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Hodge, moving, seconder. Councillor Wilkes, Councillor Hodge.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mr. Mead. Yeah, I'm happy to support the officer's recommendation, but we're all well aware that there is some amendments that need to be made to the recommendation in regards to timing of how people who are not in the pre-qualified list, how they get in there on a timing basis, whether it's 6 months, 3 months, whatever. So happy to support that, but I'll wait then, of course, for the alternate motion.
Alternate motion or amended motion?
Amended motion.
Amended motion. Yeah, Councillor Cardew.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, I'd like to move the alternate motion that's on the board. That council amend the procurement process for pre-qualified suppliers to allow new suppliers into the existing arrangement during the term of the arrangement in line with legal advice recently received.
Just for clarity.
Yeah, would it be appropriate to put that
Just
underneath?
Put the, I think we just, I don't know if we need to include it in line with the legal advice received, my apologies, during the current arrangement.
I'm happy to.
Full stop.
Happy to take it out.
And I think it would be beneficial if council made it clear what those interim periods were as part of that motion. So allowing additions each 6 months is what I would suggest. More frequently than that is really a lot of work, and the likelihood of getting submissions 3 months apart is probably low. So I think allowing people to join the list after 6 months might also change our view potentially about the length of those arrangements that we may want to, when we establish them, allow them to run for 3 years rather than the traditional 2, and then have 6 monthly refreshers, which is what is done in other councils. Some other councils, I don't know about all councils, but some other councils.
Every 6 months in there?
Yeah. At 6 monthly intervals, incurred that way.
Yeah, Hillary?
Sorry, just for clarity, it's not the procurement process that's being amended, it's the actual, it's the tender documents. I understand it's the contractual documents. We have to amend the actual contractual documents that people provide prices under, so that they then know that that's the process. Just
Isn't the procurement process that's called up the tender documents? Isn't the procurement policy at the head of the power?
It's not defined in the policy or the process, it's specified in the document, that the policy process would enable it to happen as long as it's specified in the document. Yeah.
Well, just to be clear, I don't mind what wording we use, as long as our local contractors can get onto the pre-qualified suppliers list without much trouble.
So do we remove that front bit?
So whatever wording we need to have in place, can we please put it on the screen?
So if I may clarify, because without too much trouble is probably a little bit too unclear for me. So obviously to get on the register of pre-qualified suppliers, initially you have to submit a tender because it's a tendering process. What this will do is that, for example, every 6 months we'll be asking the existing empaneled suppliers to reconfirm their price or amend their price. Any new supplier will have to go through a tender process as well. So we put that on the market because they also have to go through the same process to get on the panel. Because the legislation requires us to have a tender process.
That's the process given to us in the regulations. You can't change that and you can't amend it by policy.
So I don't need that part of it?
So the officer's recommendation with that last bit added in.
I think that's
Or do you want the officer's recommendation?
The current officer.
All right, it's it.
It says the current process, it doesn't do one stages.
Let's get it right.
So what the officer's recommendation says is basically, we've got a current pre-qualified suppliers list in place, which terminates at the end of June. It's recommended to continue that contract, because it would be difficult to actually terminate that contract without a proper reason today. And we are in the process of retendering. What the amendment will do is when we retender, we make sure that in that retender document, we allow for the 6 monthly update and inclusion of future tenders.
So
they're complementary.
The council one. Thanks, Jackie. You want to take out the council member two? Thank you.
Okay, now I just had, I need this to be clarified. Originally, Councillor Hodge and Councillor Wilkes moved the original, but now we've got
Cardews moved an amendment.
Councillor Cardews moved an amendment.
Which is now clear on the screen, so we need to second it for that amendment.
Yeah. Seconder for Councillor Cardews' amendment, Councillor Clifton. So do we need to vote on both? Vote?
Oh, no, you just vote on the amendment.
Just vote on the amendment.
Yeah, and then once the amendments, if the amendment's carried, it then becomes a motion.
Okay. Yes.
Put the motion.
Yeah. So Jackie, if you just go up a little bit, that alternate motion should be amended, shouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so we've got Councillor Cardews moving his amended motion, seconded by Councillor Clifton. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you.
Is that then now we've got to vote on the motion? That's the new motion?
Because it, no, we've only voted once.
Okay, so now the motion needs to be moved. That is the new motion.
Right. Okay. So now we vote again. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. We'll go to item 13.1, the financial report. Do we have a mover of the financial report? Councillor Hodge is moving, Councillor Billman is seconding. Councillor Hodge.
Thanks very much. I'm aware that the finance managers will be here today, so there's nothing really that I need to point out. I think we're tracking to budget. If the revenue continues to come to budget, we should, in the next couple of months, or 30th of June, should be tracking to budget. So that's the only point I make, is just to hope that the revenue stream continues to come. That's it.
Councillors? Those in favour of the financial report? Carried. Thank you. 13.2, youth strategy. We have a mover and a seconder.
I'll move.
Councillor Hodge and Willis. Thank you. Councillor Hodge.
Yeah, thanks very much. Okay, everyone. Oh, that's the report. We're going to make sure you know. Okay, so the officer's recommendation is to endorse the Youth Strategic Plan 23-26 and endorse the update terms of the reference to reflect the ages 12 to 25. There has been some little concerns about the age group, which we probably need to discuss. But other than that, yes, at our last Christmas meeting, we didn't have enough to form a quorum. That being said, that was because Christmas, the school holidays had finished, when the students were away. So really, we probably shouldn't have called a meeting, you know, in mid-December after school holidays. So we'll have to look at that next year. So other than that, I'll probably go out to Christy. We've gone out and to look for new members of the youth advisory committee, and I have said to the group that youth, you really have to advise the council what specific things that you need for that youth in our region, and it hasn't been happening at the moment, but we need to do it, and they're fully well aware of it. So I look forward to the new group coming on. So with that, Mr. Mayor, could I go to Christine just to update on?
Sure. So I just want to introduce Jess Glass, who's one of our trainees and part of the Youth Advisory Committee. So thank you for joining, Jess. So correct, Councillor Hodge, we have had some difficulties attracting and retaining members of the Youth Advisory Committee. That is true. We are looking at alternative models moving forward. But in the current circumstances, we did receive 6 resignations and have filled all 6 vacancies. So the hope is, moving forward, we'll be able to retain those members, and we will look at why people are leaving the committee before putting forward some alternative models. One thing that was very clear in the consultation for this updated youth strategy is the desire for youth to have a more active voice, but more in terms of when they're available. So there was a recommendation to have a youth forum once a year. We haven't been doing that. We haven't done that since 2019, and that's one of the proposals that they've put through. But overall, this report is all about updating the strategy in line with the Queensland strategy, which is 12 to 25. It also is aligned to the updated feedback post-COVID, in which the landscape for youth changed significantly. As adults that led those stakeholder sessions, we were quite surprised that the items such as climate change and others were not presented as a priority for our area, and that was very interesting. The priorities that continue to be a challenge for our youth in our region is housing, homelessness, health, which is consistent with our older demographics as well. So it does, the 12 to 25, those issues do not end when they're 18. So all we are doing for the age demographic is bringing in line with the contracts that our youth providers hold at this current time. They are 12 to 25, and also in line with what all levels of government are doing at the moment, which is 12 to 25.
Thank you. Councillor Cardew.
Thanks, man. I've got 2 concerns. One is that the Youth Advisory Committee is hardly existent. It's poor membership, poor turn up. So the question I ask is, do we need this youth strategy and youth advisory committee? First question. Second one is that there is no way on God's green earth will I support this strategy with an age limit of 25 as a youth. Persons become adults at the age of 18. If I have a son or a daughter under the age of 18, I would certainly not like them to be influenced in these sorts of gatherings by people at 25 years of age. It's just not on in my book. So unless that's changed, I will definitely not be supporting this.
Yeah, can I just answer just the one question about the youth meetings? It was the December meeting that was down. All the other meetings have been fine. All good. So that was the one that was disappointing, and the reason why it was in Christmas. That's all. For the 12 to 25, that's up to. Yeah, I understand your point.
Councillor Dillman.
Through the chair, anyone over 18, Christy, is it fair to say that they do need a blue card to be
That's
part
correct.
of the group? Yep.
Yes, and that's outlined, I believe, in the terms of reference.
Yep.
And just to clarify through the chair, that that increased demographic of 18 to 25 for the strategy is to ensure that our providers can also apply for funding. For instance, the most recent one being the innovation funding that was put out for the state government. That is aligned with 12 to 25. So the strategy is to provide opportunity for a broader scope of funding that we, at the moment, are possibly not attracting.
Very good. Any more questions or comments, councillors?
Just a comment, Mr Mayor, to bring it up to 25 simply aligns us with our principal funding partners for services for young people.
Mr Mayor, the United Nations for Statistical Purposes defines youth as those persons between the ages of 15 and 24 without prejudice to the other. That's the United Nations definition. So some of us may well remain youths well into our dotage, but I'm not suggesting so.
Not referring to observed behaviour.
All right, councillors, we've got a mover and a seconder. Those in favour? Carried. Um, 14.1 we've dealt with. 14.2, councillor notice of motion, infrastructure charges.
I'd like to move that, do I?
Yeah, you do.
I'll move that, please.
Councillor Hodge is moving. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Clifton seconding. Councillor Hodge.
Thank you. Shame I didn't have the audience here from before.
Okay.
Very good. All right. Good one. This here is tied in some parts to the next one. This bulky goods, as in the background, when we wrote it, it says council is not currently considering any development applications for this specific use. There is no demonstrated need to subsidise this form of development in the current market. This policy is premature and should be reconsidered at a future date in response to the specific development applications for large floor plate developments. Now, if we go back to the ordinary meeting on the 15th and the background, and I'll read it to you, councillors, TRC has recently become aware of several proposals for large floor plate bulk retail proposals looking to establish to grow their presence in the region. And I'm suggesting those inquiries for one specific site. If someone has a different view, they may say so. Now, to put in perspective, I believe this policy is unfair as just a blanket approach. Now, every development application that comes in, they can negotiate with council to a what's the word, Kelly?
Incentivise?
Yeah, incentivise infrastructure agreement. So, and that will be based on the merits of that application. If we go to this here, if, as an example, if we have an application in top of red for 30,000 square metres of retail area, that would give $3.9 million in infrastructure charges. Okay, at 130. So if we had for 30,000 square metres. Now, if we then, putting that aside, if we had 3 applications right? Let's say, an example, at 10,000 square metres. This capping would then apply, and all we would get out of those three is $520,000 times 3, which is 1.56 million. Therefore, the shortfall is $2,340,000. And this is where it's unfair, because that infrastructure has to be paid for at some time in the future for these big developments. It's got to be paid for. And if we have that shortfall, you know who's going to pay for that? The mums and dads, the pensioners, the veterans, everyone else, except the big players. Now, as I said before, if anyone wants to come here, they can negotiate with the council on their merits. So I'm suggesting this be put aside. And later on it can come back when the development of the MCU is done, the court appeals, if there is appeals, are done, it can come back, but it should come back, maybe at a different calculation. So I urge the councillors to vote for this my proposal, put it aside because it is unfair. That's my point.
Councillors? Councillor Carter?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Look, unfortunately, I don't support my colleagues' comments with regards to this. I think we initially capped the infrastructure charges on large, bulky, good type developments at 4,000 square metres. And, you know, to be fair, the demand on infrastructure, just because you've got a big building, the demand on infrastructure does not increase because you've got a large building greater than 4,000 square metres. We've still got the same amount of toilets and the developer's already put the road in. It's just, all this does is give a prospective developer some clarity when determining whether their project is viable or not for that location. So I don't support Councillor Hodges' recommendation to remove it. I think it should remain there. Yes, they do have the opportunity to enter into a negotiated infrastructure charge notice. So that option is not taken away. This just gives them some clarity when determining whether they're going to invest in their area or not up front. So I won't be supporting it, I'm sorry.
Councillor Clifton?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, as a mover of the motion, I naturally support it, but I also, at the time we moved this motion, I didn't vote for it, so I'm continuing that line of thought. These two, the local area plan and which is yet to be tabled, and the infrastructure charges commercial bulk goods policy are interwoven. They were put forward at a time, they both make good, very good economic and developmental sense for the growth of enterprise in our region. They were put forward at the time, and it's amazing how things change quickly, when there was a really vibrant economy, at least the cracks hadn't shown as they are now. We don't have any applications further applications relating to this matter. And we also, as Councillor Hodge alluded to, have the potential for apparently for some legal challenges against a development application for that area. I still maintain the view that we need to clear the decks for potential legal action with respect to the development application that I can't talk about because I would have a conflict of interest if I did. I think out of an abundance of caution, I support putting this one aside, and I'll be explaining the same in the next one. Thank you.
Councillors, any more comments? Councillor Cardew?
Yeah, thanks. One of the comments is that we haven't received any applications is quite true. We haven't received any applications because we don't have any land parcels big enough to put a big bulky goods store on. So, you know, we haven't tested this yet. We've got applications pending. There's one with council and I believe there's another one coming to create these large lots to attract these bulky good businesses to the area. So we have no application yet because we haven't had the land to be able to put them on. So I'm still very supportive of, you know, we developed this to incentivise development, try and attract large-scale development to our area, you know, improve our economic growth, improve our employment opportunities for the people who live here. So again, I just say that I can't support it.
I'll just reserve my right to apply after.
Does anyone else would like to talk on this one?
Through the chair, Mr. Mayor, if I could just make a comment from a governance perspective. In terms of having an incentives policy, regardless of it's with reference to this particular example, it's always preferential to considering requests for incentives on a case-by-case basis, because then you have a clear, determined policy by which to assess incentive requests. Now, that's not to say things won't come from left field and you'll have to make those considerations, but in terms of transparency and ease for the development industry and the community to understand the potential impact of incentives, whether it is needed right at this moment, and ultimately it's a policy decision for council, but it is always preferential to have those policies in place in terms of clarity.
Thank you. I think last call.
Yeah, there's one thing Councillor Clifton did say, that there was no land, no big plots of land available. So you had it right on there. You had it right there. That's where it is. And what I can say is, it's a blanket. I've told you the $2.3 million that we'd lose. Now, we do have an incentive policy at the moment, and any big bulk store, something like 10,000 square metres, would be catalytic. So therefore, it would be available to have the incentive of $100,000 off the infrastructure charges. So here you're doing it. There are two bites of the cherry here. So what I'm saying is it should be put aside. Let everything be done on its merit, because I know along this row here, I've had no consultation or things with prospective developers. I've had other sort of things, but not with them. So, and if I can recall, when this come here on the 15th of December, it was never workshop. It just lobbed here again, just like the next one. So now I'll put it to the vote if you like.
We'll put it to the vote. Councillor Hodge has got a motion that's moved and seconded. Those in favour? It's defeated.
Can I have call a division, please, on that?
Got that, Jackie?
Yep.
Okay. 14.3, Councillor Peter Hodge.
Excuse me.
For the motion?
I think there was another.
Was it three?
Yep.
Sorry,
Councillor Wilson.
I didn't see the hand, sorry. So it's,
Yeah, Councillor Hodge, Councillor Wilson and Councillor Clifton.
And who are the four that vote against it?
No. 14.3, Councillor Hodge, notice of motion, local area plan, Atherton Industrial Estate.
Okay, thanks very much. I'd like to move my motion, please.
Do we have a seconder for Councillor Hodges' motion? Councillor Clifton? Councillor Hodge.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. Well, as Councillor Clifton said before, this is one that really should be put aside. Now, I go to the resolution on the 8th of December 22. It's the Precinct Master Plan, Athens Industrial Estate. The Council commenced the preparation of a local area plan for the Athens Industrial Estate, establish a stakeholder reference group for the purpose of undertaking a collaborative approach to design and drafting of the local plan, endorses the engagement of a planning firm to assist in the project management and preparation of the local area plan. Project part includes $55,000 in the planning operational budget through the second budget review to fund the development of the local area plan. That was carried. Now, I'm aware that that hasn't been really enacted on. I haven't had anything that comes to this council to say to stop it. So this is the time to put it aside. Now, if there wasn't, when we approve or we don't approve the current application when it comes to council, you may say that this plan hasn't been really enacted and therefore does not carry any weight. But the point of the matter is, council hasn't. It should be enacted. It should be being worked on, but it's not, for obvious reasons. Now, it may have no weight when we make the decision. But my point I put to the Executive Manager of Development Services is this. Seeing there's no motion to enact it, it can continue on. And if there is an appeal, and that could take up to 12 months for it to come to court, my advice has been, even if that had gone further during that 12 months, who knows if it doesn't, when the appeal is heard, that is when the judge will decide whether it has weight or it doesn't, not when the decision is made. So I ask the councillors once again, just take the risk away, just put it aside, wait until the application comes to a council for approval or not, or in what form it may be. And then once everything's done, if there's appeals, no appeals, then you can bring it back if you wish. That's my call.
Could we get some guidance from you on this one, please, Kelly?
Through the chair, the resolution hasn't progressed significantly due to the application that has been currently received and the proposed application that will be received adjacent. Now, I'm really conscious not to overstep the mark because I appreciate we may have conflicts of interest, so I'm trying to keep it specific to the local area plan. In terms of the development of the local area plan, it was always intended to ensure that that Atherton Tolga industrial estate area was developed in a sequential manner with appropriate infrastructure and servicing and for appropriate uses based on council's current needs. The application that is currently before council as a local area plan hasn't progressed will be assessed, and the application that is to be received in the coming weeks will be assessed against council's current planning framework. The benefit of having the intent of the local area plan, I'll take a step back, the intent of the local area plan at that time was to work with proponents on the site as the applications went through a process to ensure that when the applications ultimately came to fruition, the mechanisms were in place to ensure that the subsequent uses that were established across the site were what council intended to see on the site, and to look at things like lot sizes and things like that that aren't currently provided for in your straight out industrial zoning or in your rural zoning. Now, based on the discussions with the applicant, it was determined that it's probably not necessary or appropriate to progress it at this point in time. Having said that, when you reach a decision point on the two applications, there may still be a need, and I'm suggesting that there probably is a need for council to have a look at how that site develops post simply the reconfiguring of lots on the site, in terms of looking at whether you want further subdivision of large lots on the site, or whether you want heavier industrial uses on the site, or whether you want service industries on the site and things like that. Having a resolution in place allows you to progress those discussions quite quickly, post a decision. Having said that, councillors, ultimately you could reach a decision point and then pass a new resolution to commence a local area plan if it's appropriate, or you could equally incorporate the local area planning process in the 10-year planning scheme review, which is coming up for consideration. So I guess to answer a couple of questions, my firm view is that the local area plan has not progressed and therefore has no weight either at this point in the assessment or at the point it goes to an appeal, unless council decides to do some significant work on it between those 2 points. But realistically, whether or not council rescinds their motion today is likely to have very little bearing on the outcome of the current assessment.
Very good. Thank you, Kelly. Councillor.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Like the previous motion, I didn't vote for this one, and my concern relates to not the assessment process of current applications or future applications. My concern relates to the potential for post-approval court action now, although we may not have progressed it, we have inferred to the world that we are looking to link those pieces of land that are currently subject, in one case to a development application, in other cases a potential development application. We're intending to link all those pieces of land together into the industrial area. Whether they end up being one, they certainly won't be rural residential anymore. They certainly won't be residential. They certainly will be some kind of industrial base. And it's reasonable to assume that people with an application or thinking about an application will correctly infer that that's the way council is thinking, even though they haven't done anything yet. It's not important in the assessment time. It's important from my perspective in post-assessment, if there is any court action. Currently, I don't know the details of them, but I understand through discussions that there are objections lodged to the existing DA. I can't go any further, don't want to go any further than that, but I do, like in the earlier discussion that I had, I don't want to have things unnecessarily on the table whilst the existing DA is being decided, which could fuel one case or the other at a subsequent court action. We do know that the court actions are proposed. We don't know much beyond that. So I again, with I urge that either way, I don't want to see our ratepayers facing a $350,000 legal bill when we could have cleared the decks a little bit to make it easier. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
I don't think the existence of this motion would change council's requirements to defend an application either way.
That's the point I make. That's if I may.
This motion itself. Anyway.
Thanks, Mr. CEO, for your largely gratuitous comment.
No, I'm just saying that I don't think the cost of defending the planning application is influenced by this motion, existing or not existing. That's all I said.
All right, Councillor Cardew.
Thanks, Ernie. I But I'm just wondering whether I can borrow you guys' crystal ball at some stage. And for me, I can't support this either. I think the fact that we haven't progressed a regional plan is not relevant at this point. We have an application that's impact accessible on the books at the moment. We have a potential application for subdivision that industrial estate that will be code accessible. And without the local area plan in place, we can still condition the impact accessible application to achieve the things that we want to see in a local area plan for the target industrial estate. We can do that because impact accessible, and we have the means and the ability to put conditions on it to achieve that outcome that's desired by this council. Whether or not we get objections and people take us to court, well, that's, who knows, I don't have that crystal ball. With regards to the code accessible application that's pending or on its way in, we have very limited ability to condition that. However, it's going to be assessed against the current plan scheme. So, once we've got these two applications, one's code, one's impact, we can condition the impact one without the, to achieve the desired outcomes that we might like to see in a local area plan. And then, once the local area plan is done, we can then enforce that local area plan over the rest of the subdivisions that was code accessible. So, yeah, I don't know what else I can say. Is that perhaps Kelly would like to elaborate more, but to me, I think we're making a lot out of this when it's not necessary.
Can I suggest we put this to the vote, Councillor
Can I just have my right of reply, since I'm the mover? I'd just like to say that when we're talking about the court case, I think it's got nothing to do with the code assessment one whatsoever. But in doing so, you know, I take these things seriously. I want to take the risk out for everything. I normally go to some outside consultants who I couldn't go to in this regard because they're tied up in it all. So I did actually give two names to. I did ask Kelly that I will be requesting that we have an expert planner in planning and law to help council with this. I did give her two names. I'm not going to mention those names because I had to go outside my normal sphere. And so basically, it's just taking the risk out. Just put it aside. Just don't take the risk. Put it aside. You can always come back. Get the risk. Take it away. And that's what I'm saying. If you can, just take the risk away. That's it. You put it to the vote.
Okay, Councillor Hodges moved a motion. Councillor Clifton seconded. Those in favour? It's defeated. Could we just take a 5-minute break? Thanks, before we go on to our business without notice. Thank you. All right, item 15, business without notice. Councillor Cardew.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. This is just for consideration. We are in the process of budget deliberations. We've had our service level review conducted and now needs to be implemented. The reason I'm raising this today is that I have been inundated with calls from our community members regarding the lack of services in our mowing, our upkeep of our gardens, our upkeep in the cemeteries. You know, roads aren't being slashed often enough. People driving down our local rural roads, for example, where the guinea grass is overhanging the road and hitting their mirrors, etc. So I think it's already been identified in our service level review that we don't have enough money in our maintenance budget to maintain our assets in a manner that we should. So I'm just bringing it to council's attention that I haven't been inundated with all these calls about the lack of work's been done in the slashing area and upkeep of the cemeteries, etc., etc. So all I want to do is highlight it, that these concerns are out there in the community, and that when we do our budget deliberations, that we need to give careful consideration to increasing our maintenance budget to be able to do more maintenance on our roads and our assets than what we have been in the past. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks very much. Any other business without notice, councillors? No? Okay, very good. Okay, so that brings us to confidential, item 16. Can we have a mover to go into confidential? Councillor Wilson is moving, Councillor Clifton is seconding. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Okay, councillors, we're at 16.1, railway lane lease. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Hodge. Councillor Clifton. Those in favour? Carried. 16.2, routine maintenance performance contract 2023-24. Do we have a mover? Councillor Cardew. And seconder.
Excuse me, with that.
With the amended resolution.
Okay, the whole resolution or just the amendment?
The amendment.
Yeah. The amendment to the resolution for 16.2 is to investigate options for the delivery of the routine maintenance performance contract for 2024, 25 and beyond. A seconder for the motion? Councillor Hodge. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. 16.3, Ravenside WQIP Stage 2, potential cost savings. Do we have a mover? Councillor Hayden and Councillor Wilts. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. 16.4, approval of S87 agreement, Jurgle Native Title Determination. Do we have a mover? Councillor Hayden and Councillor Wilts. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. 16.5, aerodrome lease renewal 711-990-744-lease 18. Do we have a mover? Councillor Cardew and Councillor Bilney. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. There being no further business, is that it? Thank you very, very much, everyone. We'll see you at our planning meeting in May. Meeting closed.